Hello and welcome to NewsHour. It's coming to you live from the BBC World Service studios in central London. I'm Tim Franks. We're beginning the programme with some figures, some of which may seem familiar, one of which seems mind-blowing, and more is leading to warnings of a slow-motion famine machine, as it's been called. The familiar figures are about the amount of traffic transiting the Strait of Hormuz, that vital and blockaded waterway to the south of Iran. The latest numbers suggest that just a few ships are managing to pass through the US and Iranian blockade each day. Analysts with the British Navy have said today that overall shipping traffic has dropped more than 90% since the conflict began. So much perhaps so familiar. But the juddering new number is over what that could mean, that the blockade could cost the world 10 billion meals a month. That assessment has come from the boss of one of the world's biggest manufacturers of fertiliser, Svein Holsæter, who runs Yara, has been talking to the BBC.
Fertilizer is not just any other commodity. It's responsible for half of the food production in the world. And given the importance of the Strait of Hormuz for fertilizer exports, it has huge consequences for every day that passes. And right now, it's not only a matter of not getting product out, it's also a matter of not being able to produce in that part of the world as well. And it's very difficult to put exact numbers. No one has full overview of that. But if I try to estimate, it could be that we're up to about 500,000 tons of nitrogen fertilizer not being produced in the world right now because of this situation that we're in. And if I try to translate that into, okay, so what does that mean for food production? Again, using some standard calculations on that, I would get to up to 10 billion meals that will not be produced every week as a result of lack of fertilizers.
As you heard, he did actually say that was 10 billion meals a week. I said 10 billion meals a month, so even more alarming. We'll hear from a couple of places that are more exposed in a moment. First, though, a bit more on why the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf are so important to the supply of fertiliser. Professor Mark Sutton is co-chair of the UN's Global Partnership on Nutrient Management.
So, in answering the point about fertilisers, we need to think of it in two halves. One half is you might have local fertiliser supply from manure in the next field. Alternatively, you buy into a global chain of production where fertilizers are produced industrially. Most nitrogen fertilizer is produced using natural gas, and then it's shipped around the world. Now, the key point is that the Gulf is a key area of gas and a key area, therefore, of fertilizer production. So all of those ships containing fertilizers can or can't get out of the Gulf of Hormuz, and that then changes the supplies around the world, making it hard for countries to buy fertilizers.
And when you're talking about natural gas being a key part of how nitrogen fertilizers are made, I mean, how important are nitrogen fertilizers for the global food supply?
Yes, so we've estimated in the past that something like half the world is alive today because of nitrogen fertilizers. It increases the amount of crops we harvest. And as human populations have increased, we've become more and more dependent upon those chemical fertilizers to produce enough food for us to eat.
Is there also a problem for the plants, the factories that are making fertilizer themselves? I mean, obviously, the most intense interest, and we'll be hearing from some farmers and farmers associations in just a moment, is in, all the impact in the field, as it were. But what about for the fertilizer manufacturers themselves? If they can't get the raw materials, how much of a problem is it for them to pause manufacturing and then restart it?
It's a very big scale process. The Haber-Bosch process is the system that's used to make most fertilizers. Nice steady state conditions. So turning it off and turning it on is a big thing. So my guess is since they can't supply it out, there'll be a reduction in production.
And can I ask you, and I realise it's incredibly difficult, but just to sort of quantify, as we've heard quantified from this head of a major fertilizer firm, the sort of threat he says this could affect or mean that globally the world goes short of 10 billion meals a month. I mean, do you think that those sorts of figures are, it seems absolutely shocking. Is it credible?
Well, I think we're going to have to add up the numbers and see his basis for it. But it is credible in terms of a big effect. My own number would be that with current world practices and typical fertilizer prices, we're wasting between 300 and 600 billion dollars a year worth of nitrogen resources. So it's very easy to get into those billions, whether it's billions of wasted money, billions of wasted kilograms of nitrogen, or billions of people affected in the food system. I think it's important to see this as, it might seem the Gulf of Hormuz is a long way. This is one of these butterfly effects where one thing connects to the next, ultimately changing our systems and our food consumption patterns.
But I mean, either way, it sounds from what you're saying as if, tens of millions of people could well become more food insecure directly as a result of that butterfly effect that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a high chance of that. Quite how it's going to manifest itself will be hard to say because the system is so complicated. But we've estimated, as I say, half the world alive today because of nitrogen fertilizers. If the fertilizer price goes up, if people can't access it, if wheat price goes up, you have these knock-on effects, which in particular affect those in the poorest areas of the world.
And I suppose that's the other point, isn't it, is that those in the poorest areas are least able to absorb these price shocks because their governments simply aren't able to absorb them and to provide the sorts of subsidies that might get them through.
Exactly. And that's why I think my message is to come back to remember two kinds of fertilizers, the kind you buy on the international market and the kind you already have in your backyard, whether it's manure or sewage. If you have a manure pile, put a lid on it, stop that being lost to the atmosphere so that you get the highest quality manure to put into your soil. When you put it in the soil, cover it as soon as you can. And that way you're getting more bang for your buck, as it were, and you're more resilient. You don't need so much of these bought-in fertilizers.
And that was Professor Mark Sutton, co-chair of the UN's Global Partnership on Nutrient Management. Well, let's get a sense of a couple of the places that are more exposed to this particular shortfall in industrial fertilizer. India, first of all. P. Krishna Prasad works for a coalition of more than 400 farmers' unions there.
The sowing season will start from June and July, and farmers will start purchasing fertilizer by May, and today is 1st May. The main crop will be the paddy, which is the food crop,
the
and
rice.
the staple food in India. And as far as the government on records are concerned, the fertilizer production in India has declined by 24.6% compared to last year, March. So this is going to have creating a market scarcity, and farmers will be forced to depend on the black market, where they will be forced to pay double the prices. And because of the shortage, much of the farmers will not be able to purchase and procure, and that will affect the yield also.
It sounds very worrying indeed. Can I just ask you, you mentioned the black market, and I presume some of your members probably don't have a lot of spare money in order to be able to afford this. So how does that work?
Actually, the farmers should have been supported by the credit facility by the government. But the government is not at all doing that arrangement of cheap credit with no interest or a minimum interest. In such a situation, the farmers are forced to depend on the money lenders, the private money lenders, who will charge exorbitant interest from the farmers. And also there are the microfinance institutions which are making this as a very big business to make profit out of the financial marketing. And this is also a bigger issue that is have created a huge indebtedness in the rural India. So there also the farmers are unable to sustain in the farming, especially the poor and small farmers. They are forced to migrate to the cities in search of employment. And per day, every day, 31 farmers are committing suicide in India, as per the same data provided by the government. So this all shows the stress on the farming. This is the situation in the countryside.
P. Krishna Prasad speaking to me from India. Let's go from there to East Africa. Elijah Gitari is a farmer just outside the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. He grows oranges, bananas, tomatoes and beans. How much does he depend on buying in fertilizer?
If you don't use fertilizers, you get very low yields. Production is very low.
You have very low yields. Okay. And what's the situation at the moment with the supply of fertilizer?
The supply of fertilizer is not really very bad as far as I'm concerned, but the stock is, we normally get them, they are saying they don't have enough stocks to last for long.
So things are okay at the moment, but you're worried about what might happen if the blockade continues. Is there a way in which you can just try to use cheaper fertilizer or less fertilizer?
We can use organic manures, but they are not as effective as fertilizers in terms of production.
And do you think that that will mean that you are going to have to just absorb the extra cost because prices will go up as supply becomes more scarce? And when do you think things may get serious for you?
If the blockade continues, we may not go for more than 2 months before the stocks are depleted in the stockist.
And what about planting? I mean, are you about to plant?
I normally rely on irrigation, so I plant throughout the year.
Oh, I see. You could really be affected immediately. Elijah, have you seen a crisis like this before?
I think this is the worst, because when there was war in Ukraine, at least the supplies were coming this way. But now the Iran war is just like a total blockage. So this is the worst.
And how long have you been farming?
Been farming for the last 20 years.
Is there anything that you can hope for in terms of support from the government? Are they doing anything? Are they able to help in any way?
The government is talking about subsidizing on the prices. All the subsidized fertilizers they are not guaranteed.
And that was Elijah Gitari speaking to me from Kenya. Coming up on the programme, George Clooney on getting older and President Trump's evergreen barbs about his political views.
I'm a proud liberal. Liberals have stood for an awful lot of very good in the country. Liberals believe that women should be allowed to vote and that blacks should be allowed to sit in the front of the bus. So I have no problem being a proud liberal.
More from George Clooney in about 30 minutes. Our main headlines this hour from the BBC newsroom. Ukraine has hit oil facilities in the Russian Black Sea port of Tuapse for the fourth time in 2 weeks. And an Oscar award has been found after going missing when its winner was banned from keeping it with him on a flight from New York in case it was used as a weapon. We'll have an update on that in just over 30 minutes. You're with the BBC World Service, and this is NewsHour, live from London. Caught in the middle of the tumult of recent months in Iran are not just tens of millions of Iranians, but also a British couple, Lindsay and Craig Foreman. They were arrested in January last year, accused of spying. In February, they were sentenced to 10 years in jail. The British government has described their incarceration as appalling. Until last August, relatives had heard nothing from them. But now they are able to call out of Evin prison to a British Foreign Office number, which then patches them through to their family. The phone lines are scratchy and keep getting cut off. But Caroline Hawley has been able to speak to them both at the same time about their ordeal.
Hi Lindsay, how are you today?
I'm just dealing with the realisation that we are likely to be here for a long time yet.
Hi Craig, I hope you're okay.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you, more to the point?
Yeah, not too bad.
You've said in the past that you feel abandoned by the government. What do you want the government here to be doing? And what do you think they realistically can do?
I don't actually know what they can do with this country here. We want help. We need to be removed from this place. We are innocent people. We have committed no crime.
The phone calls are constantly interrupted by a recording which says this call is from Evin prison and the caller is a prisoner. Craig's used to it and carries on.
It seems to me we're sitting here like, almost sitting ducks. Anything could happen really within the prison, outside the prison. I just feel as if we are wasting our lives in here and rotting away to a degree.
The war brought its own fears and risks, with explosions going off close to the prison.
And you've got the physical bombing. I was on the phone to Joe when there was one that came so close. The after effects of things, you realise how hyper alert you were during that whole period.
Lindsay, how do you spend your days?
Reading mainly. Running is my salvation, always has been. So I continue to do that. And yoga, again, one of my salvations that I choose to keep doing.
I wonder how you stay positive.
Well, I thank God I studied positive psychology, because without that, I don't know. There's people who've been here for years. And it's shockingly unjust.
We'll get through it together. And sometime, I hope soon, we will be on the other side of these four walls.
Ooh, look how beautiful Iran is. We are here.
Lindsay and Craig Foreman had crossed into Iran in late December 2024, only planning to spend a few days there before continuing their motorbike journey towards Australia.
I feel content. I'm in Iran, having an amazing time.
We're super grateful for being here, just in this lovely country with these lovely people.
They were posting prolifically about their trip before their arrest. Along their route, they've been talking to people about what it means to live a good life. And it's these conversations that seem to have got the pair into trouble. Do you wish you'd never crossed the border from Armenia into Iran?
No. I'm glad that we came on this journey together. We're in a horrible position right now, but we have met some fabulous people on the way. We have seen both sides of this country firsthand. I have seen 4 of my friends that have been removed and executed for a crime in England or a different country. You may have got a caution.
4 of your cellmates have been executed?
Yes, 4 people have been taken. And I know they've been executed because they publicise it on the TV the next day.
And that was Craig Foreman speaking to the BBC's Caroline Hawley from Evin Prison in Tehran. It's one of those things that most of us probably take for granted, but actually it's a terrific mystery, and that is how we smell. Well, those who do think about these things deeply and cleverly reckon that there's been a potentially significant advance with, for the first time, the nose of a mouse being mapped in detail, all the more than 1,000 olfactory receptors in each mouse nose. Professor Matt Grubb is an expert on the neuroscience of smell at King's College London. Matt, welcome to the programme. Can you explain why this is important?
Hi there. Yeah. This is fundamental information about sensory systems. And we always thought that the sense of smell was a little bit different, and that spatial organization, or the kind of alignment of cells within the nose, wasn't all that important. And there have been a couple of studies this week from teams, and not directly from me in any way, but from teams in Harvard in the US, that have shown that there's just exquisite spatial organization in the nose. And that's starting to get us all thinking about how olfaction might work in a completely different way to how we were thinking before.
Does that mean, and forgive me if I'm completely off beam here, but does that mean
Sure.
that that sort of sense of, there's a sort of consistency to the map? Could we see these olfactory receptors are maybe similar in organisation to the way in which we think of taste buds being clumped in various groups?
Potentially more similar, actually, to other sensory systems, like, for example, the visual system, where we know that you have cells that are close to each other in the eye that respond to areas of visual space that are very close to each other. And that whole, it's called a retinotopic map of the visual world, is fed through the entire sensory visual system and how it's processed in the brain. And there's similarly things we know in the auditory system, in the touch system as well. And so space seems to be a really important organizing principle for sensory information in the nervous system. But it was thought that olfaction was a bit special and that it wasn't all that crucial. And these findings were just overturned that.
Right. And I mean, presumably, as what you were hinting at there was that it's not just the sort of the physical arrangement of these olfactory receptors in the nose, but also then an understanding of that arrangement, that spatial arrangement, can make us understand how the smell is then processed. Because that's the thing, isn't it? Is that we
completely
we just as we visualize things as red, blue, and green and so forth, we smell things. I mean, how we then convert that into a smell that is pungent or sweet or sour or whatever.
Yeah, that's a huge question, and this research is going to help with that, I think. But it has, continued to highlight that question is still very, very important and unknown. So now we've got a better handle on the spatial organization of the system itself. But what we don't know, absolutely, is exactly what the spatial organization of the information is in the system. So does this organization in the nose mean that there are particular smells that are only detected in different bits of the nose? Doesn't seem to be that way, actually, from the initial experiments that have been done on this. So it's going to be interesting to try and reconcile exactly how that works out.
I realise that my nose is rather different from my dog's nose. Is my nose particularly different from a mouse's nose?
And the dog's nose, I mean, all mammalian noses, reasonably similar when you get down to the kind of cellular and molecular details. So they've all got similar types of cells in them. They've all got these olfactory sensory neurons, which are the cells that do the job of detecting molecules in the air and turning them into electrical signals, which then get processed by the brain. And they've got similar kinds of cells around them that help those sensory neurons to do that. And the organization is pretty similar as well. The shape of the nose and the different bony structures can be quite different between animals, and that might be important in regulating the airflow. But there's certainly enough sort of biological consistency to start drawing some parallels.
Yeah, terrifically exciting. I mean, I guess this is just, another insight into something, a sense that is so basic, so fundamental to so many of us, but about which there is so much more to learn. Professor Matt Grubb is at the forefront of all that, expert on neuroscience of smell at King's College London. We've got much more to come in the next 30 minutes on NewsHour. Do stay with us if you can. You're listening to NewsHour. There's been a spate of high-profile anti-Semitic attacks in the United Kingdom in recent weeks. Just this week, 2 Jews in North London were stabbed. The British Jewish community is small and dispersed. Duncan Kennedy has been to the south coast of England, to Brighton, where Jews have lived for centuries, but where attacks and intimidation have grown in recent years.
So here we are at the front gate of the Jewish Community Centre here.
We just got to open up.
In Brighton, they're taking no chances. Stuart Diamond is head of security. Is it a fortress or a place of worship?
It is a community centre. It is challenging in today's times that we have so many gates. And when I talk to my colleagues who I work with in Interfaith and we look at the black fencing, there is a question, are we keeping people out or keeping people in?
This is one of 5 synagogues in the city, a place of contemplation, meditation, but now some trepidation. A Hebrew a cappella plays out of the speaker in the restaurant here. It helps soothe the nerves that many Jewish people are now feeling after the events in London and elsewhere. It's where I meet Jonathan Conway from the board of management that runs the centre, a man not easily intimidated.
We are going to carry on with our life. We're not going to be intimidated by people who dislike our way of life or try to disrupt our way of life.
But Jonathan knows at least 2 Jewish friends from Brighton who are now moving to Israel, fear outpacing their faith. So it's not a law enforcement solution that's needed, it's much more strategic than that.
I think so. I think we need to not only pour money into security, because that's going to be a short-term thing, but we need to also educate people differently and better about the Jewish community, about our way of life, our values.
In the kitchen, Peter, the non-Jewish sous chef, is getting lunch ready. Do you have any concerns about this place becoming a target?
Well, we all know we can be a target, but this is the reality, so we are well protected here and I think we are safe.
This is Fiona Sharp typing. So you're at your computer here, and what have you pulled up there?
I've just been pulling up some complaints that we've had around anti-Semitic incidents in the city over the last couple of days.
Fiona works at the centre 1 day a week in a newly created role to handle calls and emails from frightened Jewish people. Have you changed the way you go about your life in terms of your personal security? Have you modified things, the way you look, dress, anything like that?
You will be able to see that I wear my Star of David, a Magen David. I have never taken that off, and I will never take it off. I will not let people that want to spread hate dictate how I live my life.
And that was Fiona Sharp ending that report from Brighton by Duncan Kennedy. This is NewsHour. It's live from the BBC World Service. I'm Tim Franks. Several European governments have strongly criticised Israel over its treatment of some European nationals, activists who were aboard a flotilla that embarked en route to Gaza to try to deliver aid and draw attention to the humanitarian situation in the Palestinian enclave that was so devastated in the more than 2-year-long war with Israel. These flotillas have been intercepted by the Israeli Navy before, but what's drawn particular ire from European capitals is that this happened in international waters off the Greek island of Crete, which got us thinking, what is the situation like in Gaza right now? Rushdie Abu Alouf is our Gaza correspondent. He's currently based in Istanbul, but he keeps a very close eye on what is happening in the enclave. Rushdie, good to have you back on NewsHour. We often said in the course of those 2+ years of the war in Gaza that the humanitarian situation was terrible. Have things improved?
Yes, hi Tim. Yes, it is improved a little bit after the ceasefire, and there is about 200 to 300 trucks are allowed through the border crossing with Israel, like every day in Gaza. There is no shortage of food. Well, the prices of food are still high, but there is a real problem with the water, the electricity. Nothing is near normal. All of the essential services. There is no electricity in the majority of Gaza. There's no running water. People have to buy the water for a very high prices in Gaza. And more important is that most of the hospital, were destroyed. There is a real shortage of medical equipment, medical facilities, and medicine. And according to the WHO, there is about 18,000 people who are registered for urgent medical treatment outside Gaza, where Israel is allowing about 50 every day to cross into Egypt for medical treatment. When we talk about this flotilla, will people believe that this is a good symbolic political approach, but it won't solve the humanitarian situation, because all of the equipment and supplies that is carried by the flotilla can be accessed by the land crossings every day, but people highly appreciate. We have seen a small symbolic protest near Gaza coast to welcome the flotilla, which they knew that it will never come, but people highly appreciate. Anyone is considering Gaza, considering breaking the siege in Gaza, but they believe that bringing aid into flotilla isn't practical, while they have Gaza has land crossing with Egypt and 5 land crossings with Israel.
The administration of the Israeli army, the Kogat as it's known, the part that looks after getting supplies, or is supposed to look after getting supplies into to Palestinians, particularly in Gaza. I mean, just to pick you up on what you were saying about the water, I mean, absolutely, we're hearing from the aid agencies that still operate in Gaza that there is a total crisis there, and Gazans themselves are anecdotally saying that they're running extremely short. KOGAD insists that, there are pipelines that give huge amounts of all the necessary water into Gaza. I mean, is there an issue of just, it's getting in, but then it's not being distributed, or what's going on?
Well, look, Tim, I did a story about the water even before 7th of October and before the war, that 95% of the water was contaminated and undrinkable even before the war. And now 60%, about 55 or 60% of Gaza is under Israeli control, behind the so-called the yellow line. And there is most of the infrastructure for distributing the water are destroyed. Well, the houses were destroyed. So there is no way that the water situation could be any easier. People are now, distributing water with like tankers, and there is huge logistical issue because there is no fuel in Gaza. There is no enough trucks to carry the water to the people. So it is very difficult to say that the water situation is getting any better.
And you mentioned the yellow line. This is the Israeli army occupying about half of the Gaza Strip and controlling that very, very tightly indeed. There are reports that it's actually trying to sort of push people further. There's a talk of an orange line, which may be pushing people into the 2 million people of Gaza into an even tighter strip of land. What can you tell me about that?
Well, we are now about 200 days since the ceasefire was in place and since this yellow line was created. And every day we are getting report about the Israelis are trying to push in the yellow line into the Hamas territories, controlled territories. The most recent incident was in Zaytun area, where the army was pushing about 100 or 200 meters and people were pushed to leave the area.
Rushdie Abu-Alouf, our Gaza correspondent, thank you so much for joining us. The detained former Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been moved to house arrest, the country's state media has reported. The 80-year-old Nobel laureate has been held in detention, probably in a military prison in the capital Naypyidaw, since she was removed from office in a military coup in 2021. A statement by the military leader Min Aung Hlaing, who led the coup, said that he'd commuted her remaining sentence to be served at the designated residence. A photo was also released showing her with two men in uniform. Kim Harris is the son of Aung San Suu Kyi, and NewsHour's Owen Bennett-Jones spoke to him just after the latest news emerged.
Nobody has provided anything to confirm this. There's been no independent verification whatsoever. The images that have been released so far have been old images, and that has been clearly verified by a number of different sources. So there's nothing to make me reassured at the moment. Nobody has reached out to me, and I have had no communication with her.
Right, okay, just work out what's going on with the pictures then, because pictures have been released by the state in Myanmar, a photograph of her. She's on a wooden bench behind a low table facing two unidentified men in uniform. Now, I've been looking around online, and I can't work out what's contemporaneous and what's old. You think there are no new pictures, basically?
Not so far as I'm aware, no.
Right.
That picture that you're referring to, I'm almost certain is an old picture from 2022. So I don't know what other images are circulating, because that's the one that is predominant at the moment, but that is an old image as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, that's the one that was announced by the state, the one I described. So when is the last time you had contact with her?
It's been almost 3 years now, I think. I have had one letter from her since the coup, and nothing else.
And I mean, obviously you're in touch with people in Myanmar who are supporters of hers. Has anyone had contact with her?
Not outside of the military or the prison. So I can't really trust anybody's say so on these things because, they all come from military spokespeople.
You obviously appeal to governments, particularly in the West, I think, asking to press for her release. Do they provide you with any information about her status?
No, I'm afraid not. They know as little as anybody else. And all that we know is what the military say in their press release. And I'm afraid to say that isn't to be trusted.
I mean, it's striking that the Chinese offered their support to the government of Myanmar just recently. Do you go to China? Because, I mean, that's where the power probably is. Do you go to China and press your case with them?
I have reached out, but I've been unable to connect with China so far.
Right. I mean, do you fear that actually by holding her so out of touch with anyone, the military have achieved their objective of reducing her political relevance?
Absolutely. And I think that is their aim in all of this. And they're trying to legitimise themselves by saying that they've moved her to house arrest, whilst in fact, they've basically moved her from one undisclosed location to another undisclosed location without actually giving any evidence that she's actually alive.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you included in your lack of information is anything on her health, I guess.
Yes, some time ago we heard that she had problems with her heart as well as other ongoing issues, and I know that she won't be receiving the care that she needs or even the diagnosis that she needs.
What impression do you have of the degree of support for her in Myanmar? I mean, through her life, she has had enormous support in the country. Where does that stand now, do you think?
She still has a great deal of support, both in Myanmar and around the world within the Burmese diaspora, and beyond that even.
Tell us more about that. I mean, is the party organised? I mean, does it exist? Is it in the shadows? Is it operating under the radar, as it were? How does it work?
There's a great deal of things going on which are both in the open and in the shadows. The NUG have taken up the stand since the coup, and the NLD are still working where they can. But Burmese people have shown that they are not accepting any military rule going forwards, and the military continue to bomb them despite claiming victory in these elections. So we can only hope that peace will come and that the bloodshed will stop.
Myanmar has somewhat fallen off the international media radar and maybe political radar too. Where does the government of Myanmar stand now in terms of international isolation and sanctions and all that? What's happening with that at the moment?
Like I said, they're trying their best to legitimise themselves, and talking about moving my mother to house arrest is just one way of doing so.
Well, I mean, it's strange in a sense that it suggests that the authorities are trying to, appease the West or to make some gesture to the West, do you think?
I don't think so. At the moment, they've tried to make themselves legitimate by holding these elections. And that's not just with their neighbours. They want to make themselves legitimate internationally. And the way things stand with the world at the moment, I'm afraid to say there's a lot of people who are bullying others, and they think that they can do the same.
Do you ever consider going to Myanmar to try and press this case even more hardly with the media and so on?
I do. I'm not sure I'd be safe over.
Almost certainly not. But I mean, what are the calculations you consider in that decision?
Ultimately, my main aim in all of this is to see that my mother is alive and well. And if I can see her and have some reassurance that I can get there and back safely, then I would do so.
And that was Kim Harris, the son of Aung San Suu Kyi, speaking to Owen Bennett-Jones. You're listening to NewsHour. This is the BBC World Service, and this is NewsHour, live from London with me, Tim Franks. All airlines sometimes lose luggage, but the incident with the German carrier Lufthansa has been of a slightly different order. They managed to lose the golden statuette belonging to the Oscar documentary winner Pavel or Pasha Talankin. The director of Mr. Nobody Against Putin, a film documenting one Russian school's indoctrination of its students over the war in Ukraine. Talankin said that he'd had the Academy Award in his carry-on bag for a flight from New York to Germany on Wednesday, but airport security had stopped him from boarding with it. They said it could be used as a weapon. Lufthansa then wrapped the Oscar up and put it in a cardboard box, and that was the last Pavel Talankin saw of it. We got through to the director of the film, David Borenstein.
He seems to be really upset this morning. He's kind of become a little withdrawn, and I asked him if he wanted to do an interview with the BBC, and he just simply texted me a one-word response, no. He's in a very bad mood. I can tell by the way he has been texting me back. To me, it is strange that he had to check it, because I still haven't been able to find anybody that was ever asked to check an Oscar. For me, we went to the BAFTAs, and in between the BAFTAs and the Academy Awards, which is like a month, I never was able to go home. So I actually took that BAFTA on like half a dozen flights and never had any problem with it. And when I flew home from LA to Copenhagen, when I went through airport security, I was holding both a BAFTA and an Oscar. It was no problem. I'm not able to find anyone that ever had a problem.
The film director, David Borenstein, that was earlier today. And in the past couple of hours, I'm delighted to say we received the news that Lufthansa had found the Oscar. It is safely in our care in Frankfurt, a statement said. We're in direct contact with the guest to arrange its personal return as quickly as possible. Well, shortly after that news, we got this voice memo from Robin Hessman, executive producer on the film, and she said she was jolly relieved it had been found. But she told NewsHour that the ordeal would not have happened to a Hollywood star.
I was on the phone with Pasha through this entire ordeal, and it was so incredibly frustrating how unreasonable and ridiculous this whole situation was. First, it was one woman at TSA who just insisted that Pasha would use the Oscar as a weapon. And then actually we had a wonderful compromise that a very helpful woman from Lufthansa came up with, that Pasha would be escorted to the door of the plane with it, and it would stay in the cockpit or with the flight attendants for the duration of the flight, so he could not cause any harm. And then it would be given to him as he disembarked. And once that solution was found, we thought everything would be fine, but yet a different Lufthansa person overruled it and then spent the next hour and a half yelling at me and Pasha over the phone and insisting that it go in this cardboard box. So it's been quite an ordeal. And poor Pasha, who missed his flight and had to take a bus from Germany to another country. And I just can't understand why people decide to be unreasonable. I'm sure that no Hollywood star, and really it doesn't sound like any other person who has ever traveled with an Oscar has ever had to deal with this. I will be very curious as to what happened to it, but it's a relief that the Pasha is reunited with his Oscar again, and I really hope that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Robin Hessman, executive producer of Mr. Nobody Against Putin. Well, talking about Hollywood stars, there's a rather less famous tribute in the US film industry than the Oscars, but it is one venerated by insiders, and it's called the Chaplin Award. And this week, George Clooney was honoured with one for his career as both an actor and director. Clooney's had more than 50 roles in films. He's won 2 Oscars. He's also become an outspoken critic of President Trump and his policies. From New York, here's the BBC's Tom Brooke.
At Lincoln Center, New York's performing arts complex, the spotlight was on Hollywood star and filmmaker George Clooney. As the Chaplin Award tribute, the focus was on his body of work, and that made him a little uncomfortable.
I turn 65 next week, so I think I have to start looking back, because looking forward is a much shorter journey. So I haven't had much of an opportunity to look back. I think it'll be a little awkward tonight.
Call anesthesiology and get an ENT surgeon down here now, please.
George Clooney first really broke through to become a household name more than 30 years ago in the top-rated medical television series ER. Millions of Americans took a strong liking to Dr. Doug Ross, the compassionate pediatrician he portrayed.
You kind of had me scared there for a minute.
His co-star from that time, Juliana Margulis, has warm memories of him.
His generosity of spirit, he's funny, he's kind, he's a prankster, self-deprecating, in the best way.
Clooney transitioned very successfully from television into movies, making an impact in films that included the crime romance Out of Sight and in the comedy adventure Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But it was Ocean's 11, in which he played Danny Ocean, a master thief and con man, that confirmed him as a major movie star. There have been missteps. His performance in Batman and Robin was heavily panned.
This is no time for men who oppose Senator McCarthy's methods to keep silent.
Clooney has also directed several feature films, including Good Night and Good Luck, which focused on the legendary CBS television newsman Edward R. Murrow.
Good evening.
Last year, in a Broadway stage adaptation, Clooney portrayed Murrow himself as a man speaking truth to power. He's concerned about the state of journalism in the US today and the difficulties in delivering truthful stories.
I worry about our ability to find the filters that are able to figure out which ones are true or not. But that's kind of the world we live in now. In particular, when you look at things like Sora 2 and deepfakes and how we're going to have a very difficult time believing our own eyes anymore. It's going to be trickier.
George Clooney is also well known as a supporter of the Democratic Party in the United States and Democratic political candidates. He has sparred at times with President Trump. He once referred to him as a knucklehead. In return, the president has called George Clooney a fake movie actor.
What do you make of those kinds of judgments by him?
Well, I mean, it's childish, and I don't care. You know, if you're not comfortable with your own skin at this point, I mean, it's easy. Those are silly arguments about silly points.
You know, his supporters might dismiss you as a disgruntled liberal.
I'm a proud liberal. Liberals have stood for an awful lot of very good in the country. Liberals believe that women should be allowed to vote and that blacks should be allowed to sit in the front of the bus. So I have no problem being a proud liberal.
George Clooney, self-declared proud liberal, and also somebody who's been honoured this week by a Chaplin Award, a big honour in the US film industry. He was speaking to Tom Brooke, and that's it from this edition of NewsHour. From me, Tim Franks, and the team here in London. Thanks for your company.